Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be doing the PPF on the Ford GT. If you check out part 1 and 2 of this video series, you can see where I prepped the car using CarScope UK products. My buddy Lewis, a fellow NV Pro installer from Chicago, Aesthetic Detail Studio, was down here for almost a week, and we did the paint correction on this thing. So part 2 covers that process, and today I'm going to be installing some PPF on here and just kind of letting you guys join along on the process. So far, I've done both fenders. There's a little bit of quality control that needs to happen, like around the reflectors and stuff, some final trimming and things like that, but those panels are installed. I just put on this front nose piece. I was trying to get it done in one piece. It wraps a good bit underneath. But sometimes with custom PPF, unless you talk to somebody who's done the exact same car, another like skilled installer, there's no, I guess, blueprint or exact plan of how things are going to go. You kind of have to figure it out and feel it as you go. So was going to try to get this in one piece, but I had to cut it just underneath the like this curve here, which ultimately is not a huge deal. Like, it's going to be 2 pieces, but you'd have to be literally laying on your back to see it. So the film was just, I've done this long enough, and I could tell that I probably could have gotten it on, but by the time it left the shop and settled after a couple weeks in the sun and things like that, it probably would have peeled up underneath here and fingered up. So I'm going to be doing that in 2 pieces. But yeah, I mean, a job like this for PPF is, I would say, like, there's certainly harder cars to do. This is not the most difficult or challenging install that there is out there, but it's certainly at the upper echelon of difficulty, I would say. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say for me this is probably like a 8, 8.5. So for me that means, like, I'm confident I can do the whole thing. Obviously I wouldn't have taken on the job if I didn't feel like I could not complete it, but it means that it's going to be one of those jobs where I'm going to just have to have as much time as I need to get it done, because I've not done one before, and there's not exactly any patterns for this, so it's all custom hand cut, which adds a considerable amount of time. I mean, some cars like Teslas, you can hand cut them pretty quick, but something like this, I mean, you know, I'm having to blade all around the headlight here, between every panel, around the reflectors, into the door jambs, I mean, around the wiper blades. So often what ends up happening is my time of actually stretching and squeegeeing the panel is not that bad. It's the trimming and going back and heat sealing the edges that just adds a considerable amount of time. You could probably do 2 or 3 regular full fronts in the time that it takes you to do this. So it has to be priced accordingly, and I've got to spend the right amount of time to make it look right. So another, you know, I guess challenge with this is, and this is just kind of how I choose to do it, every shop's a little bit different, but I don't like to take things off cars like this. One, because I don't really have any business doing that, so I would need to pay somebody to do it, and also it makes me a little bit nervous even paying someone to do it. I do disassemble like more basic production level cars like BMWs, Teslas, things like that, where it's a little bit, you know, more straightforward, I guess. But no matter whenever you take a car apart, you know, I wouldn't say they don't go back together 100% the same way, but anyone who works on cars or works on their own cars knows what I'm talking about. There's always a little bit of a risk, you know, involved. You can take something apart and it might not go back together exactly the same, or the tolerance might not be as tight. Sometimes when things leave the manufacturer, it's best just to kind of leave it alone, unless you absolutely have to take it apart. So for me, that means, you know, leaving the headlights in, leaving these side reflectors in. I know a lot of installers might go, oh, whatever, you know, just pull them out, it's not a big deal. It's just some nuts and bolts, which it is, but for me, it's the risk. I don't want to be responsible if something doesn't go back together the right way. So, but by leaving those things in, it does make the install a little more tedious, in my opinion. I'm having to tape off, like I used our chamois tape to tape off the headlights and the reflectors so that I'm not cutting them, because when I stretch this fender, the film's going over. So I have to like make a cut here to release the film to basically lay it into this crack where then I can go back and make my final cut. And it just makes manipulating the film a little bit harder. So a lot of times I will take stuff off cars for a cleanliness aspect, because a lot of dirt and debris is actually going to get trapped in these areas. So like when you're installing this bumper, for example, you know, this seal in here, no matter how much you detail the car is probably the dirtiest thing in the equation. So yeah, I see people wear like painter suits, and I'm not judging, you know, whatever works for you. If it helps, do it. But for me, like my experience has been that the car is probably the dirtiest thing in your shop. So obviously you want to keep a really clean work environment. You want to be wearing clothes that are clean, not dirty, or, you know, if you have pets at home and stuff, lint roll like crazy, or keep a change of clothes. I do that here sometimes and like literally change clothes. And filtered tanks, filtered sprayers, literally the water we use is filtered. So there's all sorts of things you can do to mitigate the dust and debris, but I have found that sometimes taking the car apart and cleaning inside those cracks is what's gonna help you get the cleanest install. That being said, I don't wanna jinx myself, but even though this car is not disassembled, it's been a very clean install. I have like one dirt speck on that fender, very minute. I've been doing this long enough now that I kind of know when it's time to call it. Like for example, you know, that will probably bother me. I don't think it's going to bother the owner. Just in my experience of doing this, it's very minor, but to pull an entire panel for one piece of debris that's very, very tiny is, on something this complicated, not a great idea. If you're talking like a Tesla hood, Porsche 911 hood, something very simple, where if I redo it, is there a chance I can get it 100% debris free? Probably. On that fender, it's such a clean fender that for that one speck of debris, I'm not going to pull it. But if I had to guess, you know, it's sort of near the gas cap area, fuel door area. You know, it probably came from moving the film around, shifting it around near that gasket. Not saying I would normally remove a fuel door, you know, for an install. That to me is crazy. Or, you know, the seal around the fuel door, that would be pretty extreme to me. The other thing too with removing stuff on cars is, you know, it's become very popular or more mainstream, I guess, in the PPF industry, guys taking stuff apart, which I'm an advocate for a cleanliness standpoint. Sometimes you can wrap some more edges and stuff like that, but it is something that takes experience and time to figure out what you can and can't get away with. So I see guys literally like disassembling the cars like you would for a vinyl wrap. PPF is much thicker than vinyl, so like for example, this gap right here where these two panels meet, the front nose and the fender, I know I have enough space to wrap the fender edge. I don't think I have enough space to wrap the front nose edge into the fender. There's just not enough space. It's too tight. And what can happen is over time things can pucker and start to push out. So just something to keep in mind, like if you're an installer or if you're a consumer of PPF, you know, ask your installer questions. If they say, hey, you know, I'm gonna deliver you a edgeless install, or it's basically a virtually edgeless seam-free install. You know, just ask them questions like, hey, how many times have you removed that mirror from this door? And have you ever had the film like pucker out? Because everything is not perfectly tight. You know, when the car's traveling down the road, you're hitting bumps going 70, 80 miles an hour on the highway. Things do shift around. So I have just learned over the years, I've gotten, I've pushed it too far and had to redo stuff. And, you know, I've kind of found what I feel like is a happy medium of giving a really clean install, eliminating as many edges as possible, but also not going super overboard and pulling bumpers off and stuff just to like wrap a couple more edges. The customers don't want to have to come back and redo it. I certainly don't want to have to redo it. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. But I'm gonna keep working on this. I will start recording again once I do the hood because, again, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do it. I have a pretty good idea of what I want to try to do, but I can walk you guys kind of through that, my thought process as I'm installing, and give you a little bit of insight on that. So be back in a little bit. We are on the final stretch here of the Ford GT project. This car has been here for quite a while. My wife actually and I welcomed our second daughter into the world about halfway through this. When Lewis was here, he was actually scheduled to be here for the full week, but he ended up leaving on Thursday because my wife went into labor. So everything with that went very smoothly. We're very thankful. Everyone's healthy and happy. But it was good to get back here and get this thing wrapped up, figuratively and literally. So I know I mentioned earlier in the video I was going to show you guys the hood installation. I'm still getting used to all this vlogging video stuff. I've been trying to do it every single week to get more in tune with it, but my mic did die about a quarter of the way into the hood installation, unfortunately. I think it would have been a pretty good video, but not sure how much use that would be if you can't hear what I'm saying. So in the future, I will be better prepared. So today, I'm gonna walk you guys through, the correction is done, all the PPF is done, so all the intricate, difficult work is finished. Now we are just purely on the final stages, so we're gonna be doing final quality control, applying our LSPs, going through the interior, dressing the tires, all the basic stuff. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time showing you guys on the car how I do this. If you're watching this channel, you're probably pretty in tune with detailing. Even if you're new to it, I don't really need to show you how to use a glass cleaner. There are some tips and tricks, so if there's things you guys wanna learn more about, please drop a comment, shoot me a message privately, or send me an email, whatever. I'd be happy to cover any subject, really. So, but just for the sake of keeping this somewhat to the point, what I wanted to do is just kind of go through each of the products I selected, why I selected them, and kind of what towels I use with it and everything to give you guys sort of the process of what we're going to be doing here to get this thing finally done. So first step, after we finish correction, Lewis washed the vehicle outside to get all the polishing dust, all the oils off the paint, everything like that. Highly recommend doing that, especially if you've been compounding. There's going to be a lot of dust in all the cracks, especially this car. With the rear hatch, like the engine cover, the frunk, all these vents, I mean, there was so much dust lodged into the cracks of this car that doing something like a rinse-free wash and using like a blow car dryer or an air compressor would have not sufficed. There are times where I've done that, especially if we're doing like light polishing work. I will opt to just do a rinse-free and blow it out because sometimes the car's in the lift, the wheels are off, Tyler's coating them. It just doesn't really make sense to, coat the wheels, put a fresh set of coated wheels in the car, pull it outside, wash it, especially if you've just done like a light polish. But in this case, the wheels are actually not getting coated. This car's not getting any sort of ceramic on it. And it was really, really dusty because, as you guys saw in part 2, Lewis went through like the compounds and polishes we selected, and it was a pretty heavy correction, so washing it was kind of non-negotiable. So even though we've already washed it, I'm still going to wipe it down with Clarity. After doing the PPF application, I got some slip solution. There's fingerprints all over it. There's probably still some polishing spots here and there. So the NV Clarity is going to help get that off there. For this, I really like Zero Finish towels. If I had to pick one towel, if you told me I could only have one microfiber towel to run my whole entire business for every single duty and task, it would be the Zero Finish. By far, we use more of these than anything else in the shop. I also laid out a Plush Plus here. The reason is when I move on from Clarity to the Sealant, Koch Chemie Sealant, this is actually a good time now to let you guys know we're going to be adding Koch Chemie to the lineup. I'm going to be doing a video in December. Brad Swims with Koch Chemie is going to be coming out here to the shop. We're going to have all the NV Pro guys out here, and we're going to be prepping my F80, doing like full front plus some other parts of the car in PPF and coating it in Nova Pro. But Brad's going to come out here and train us on the whole entire range. So very excited to add this lineup. We've been testing it and it's awesome. I mean, most of the brands we carry are pretty unique. I've talked about that before and why that appeals to me for various reasons, but I've been searching for some time to find a brand that is a little more mainstream. This is obviously not like go to AutoZone or O'Reilly's and buy it level of mainstream, but it's a much bigger brand than most of the brands we carry, and I've felt for a while, pretty much like the last year, I've been searching, trying to find something that would fit the Parks Car Care brand, but also provide like a more bigger brand feel, I guess you could say. And the product performance is amazing. It's out of Germany. The product support is great, which is a big plus for us and for our customers who end up buying it. So really excited to do that video in December. We're going to be prepping my car using nothing but Koch. We're going to be doing the correction with nothing but Koch Chemie. So that's going to be a great kind of way for you guys to learn directly from the rep and from myself and a team of talented detailers how to get the most out of these products. So, but the Plush Plus, I like this sometimes. I find on like some of the grabbier paints, I could probably get by on this car just applying this with a zero finish. But sometimes you get that final little bit of streaking off. It happens sometimes with like NV Boost, some of the high SiO2 spray detailers or sealants. There's that like ghosting effect where it keeps coming back. I don't know why, but I have found that a plush towel, like if you do your first wipe with a zero finish, come back with a plush towel, that seems to be the ticket for getting it totally streak free. It's a little more wiping involved. And full disclosure, I mean, KLIN is, I've talked a lot about KLIN in my posts and on my videos. I do believe it's the highest quality microfiber you can buy, but any of these really plush towels, once you've washed them, like I find for us here, I wash towels once a week. We obviously use them every single day, so we're a high use shop, but or high use setting, but around that 3-month mark, so however many washes that is, 12 plus washes, you can get some linting, and I know there's ways to avoid that with like how you wash them, how you dry them, everything else. But for me, I'm washing so many towels, I'm not gonna, for better or for worse, I'm not gonna take the time to divide every type of towel out, wash them separately, hang dry these, machine dry those. I throw them all in together and let it rip. The only exception is obviously like coating removal towels. Like I don't wash those with my other towels for obvious reasons. It would ruin all your towels. But I think that if you wash these separately and you hang dry them, you might not see that linting after 10 or 12 washes, but it's just something to keep in mind. And I know that, like if I use this, I might have to go back over with a zero finish just to kind of get any of the lint off, or maybe take the air compressor or something like that and just dust it off. But it does help a lot with the streaking on certain products. So going to start with clarity, wipe the whole entire car down, including the glass, everything else. I have ADG Fuzion out here, and the reason why I laid this out is you can just use clarity to do the entire car, including like any spots you've missed on the wheels. Like I moved the car back and forth to kind of knock any rust off the rotors, so there's a little bit of like dust sitting in the barrel. You can use clarity for that, or for door jams, things like that. But the reason why I brought out the Fuzion is if you're a shop or just a price-conscious consumer, at this stage in the detail, ADG Fuzion Wipeout is going to be a great option for like jams, wheel faces, barrels, stuff like that. You don't really, clarity is a panel prep. So unless you're putting an LSP on the surface, clarity per use is going to be more expensive than something like Fuzion, which is a heavily concentrated product that you water down. So I kind of like to use both. Obviously, here in my setting, I can just use clarity. I don't have to use both, but I just think it's the sensible thing to do. So if you're someone who's trying to watch your budget, save your panel prep for really like the coating applications, polish removal, things like that, then use Fuzion on the areas that aren't going to get LSPs and save yourself some money. So after I panel prep, I'm going to apply the Koch Chemie sealant to the paint and the film, the PPF on the car. The third step, I'm going to be putting H2GO on the glass. This is like a staple for me at this point. Not a ceramic coating, but works extremely well. I've seen like 6 months out of it on a daily driver. Granted, it was my car, and at the time I was washing it, you know, how I should be, so every couple weeks. So probably like 3 months on an abused car, but for how easy it is to apply, it's definitely a no-brainer. I think this bottle is like 13, the smaller bottle is like $13, and you don't need a lot to apply it. So very, very price-friendly product, easy to apply. You can double layer it if you want to get a little more durability out of it. For application, I have so many of these NV applicators because we open so many NV coatings here. I literally have a drawer full of these. So the suede works really well, wrapped around the block. I'm sure most people are familiar with these at this point. It's what comes with a lot of ceramic coatings. If you don't have any of those, you know, you can use like a KLIN applicator, or I've got a CarScope coating saver applicator out here. Works really well. For H2GO, I have found, and really like NV Glass or Gyeon View, all the glass coatings. I don't know why. I don't have like any scientific explanation as to why, but the KLIN dual sides seem to be really, really good. Kind of probably the same methodical like process as the Zero Finish and the Plush Plus. The towel has two sides, so it has like a lower pile side and then like a little bit of a, it's not quite like a Plush Plus, but it's definitely more raised than the low side. So I'll typically start with like the low nap side, go over the glass, and then quarter it to a higher pile side to get any of the final streaking off. For H2GO towels and ceramic coating removal towels, we actually put those in a separate bin. And I try to get one more use out of them. Typically it's to wipe a tire with a tar remover. So, I mean, there's just no sense in using nice new microfiber towels to do that. You're gonna throw them right away. So we remove coatings or remove H2GO, throw them in that bin, and then you can polish an exhaust tip or wipe a tire down, something like that with it. So I don't have that laid out here because I don't put those towels on this table. It's my PPF table, so I keep it very clean. But yeah, so got the paint prep, general surface prep, sealant, glass coating. For the sealant and the glass coating, ScanGrip, great tool to have, especially the diffused cap. Check from all angles, make sure you're not leaving any streaking or anything like that. So after the outside of the car is done, I'll move to the interior. Honestly, with interior products, a lot of times it's just kind of like dealer's choice. I pick what I feel like using that day. I mean, there is definitely some discretion that I use, depending on what products we carry and what surfaces I'm working on. You know, I might select a specific product. Like this car only has 6,000 miles on it, but it was made in 2006. So, you know, the interior leather has had a little bit of wear on it, not like wear as in it needs restoration or anything, but it is showing a little bit of that shiny, you know, from the oil on people's skin and stuff like that. So the interior detailer from Gyeon, this is a great product. The only thing I will say about this is like if you have interior pieces that have been refurbished, like specifically the soft touch plastic. So we had one customer, which I'm glad he shared his experience with us and we took great care of him and everything, but he had a 3 Series, like an E90 or E92, and we still don't know if it had been repaired or not. I think could have been a possibility, but like the soft touch plastic that tends to get like kind of gummy and sticky and fall apart even on its own, or if it's been repaired, like refurbished. This product does contain alcohol, so it can kind of accelerate that wear on products like that. So most people who are using it on their brand new cars aren't going to have that problem. I think Maserati is like the only manufacturer that I know of that's still putting that material on the interior for whatever reason. But just something to keep in mind, if your car does have that in it, check out the STEK interior detailer. There's a little more wiping involved with that product, but it's not alcohol based, so it's not gonna, there's no risks involved with it. That being said, I don't want to like, you know, scare people out of this product. It's extremely safe. It's like that's a very rare circumstance, but it can happen. Otherwise, this product is amazing. It does have a sort of like disinfecting property to it because of the alcohol in it. So if you want to like sanitize your interior, I think it's a great product. But really the reason why I like it the most is it's just very streak free. It almost flashes off on its own, like there's no second wipe needed. Works great on navigation screens, buttons, and it has like a really good anti-dust effect. So like we actually use it to wipe down our shelves here in the shop for the product displays because it keeps dust from accumulating on them. So also has a great odor to it, great fragrance to it. So the second product I'll be using is Gyeon Leather Cleaner Strong. So this is a product that I actually specifically chose for this car because like I mentioned, the leather is there's some areas like the bolster and on the steering wheel and stuff where it's a little bit shiny. This is the strongest leather cleaner we sell, so I know that I won't have to be doing 2, 3, possibly even 4 passes with like a more mild leather cleaner. So sometimes you just got to pick the stronger cleaner, go in there, get the job done, do it once. That way you're not scrubbing leather for 3 times as long as you should be. Gyeon Leather Cleaner Brush, great product. CarScope, the wood handle brushes, these two are kind of my go-to for interior cleaning. Towels, the KLIN bubble towel, they come as a 2-pack, one's blue, one's white. I really like that they do the different colors because I'll typically use blue for like the interior detailer. No big deal, like you know, at that point this isn't like a huge cleaning product, meaning whatever surfaces you're cleaning with this, the towel really shouldn't be getting like black or brown or anything like that. The white towels, I like them because when I'm using like a leather cleaner, it gives me an indication of how well I'm actually cleaning the surface. So I quarter these towels like I do all the towels. But if by the time I get to like the last clean side of this, if it's still brown or black or even like a little bit, the white's gonna show that really well, which means that I'm not done cleaning it. I still need to keep scrubbing the leather before I put on a conditioner. The one thing I didn't lay out here, I just realized that, is a leather conditioner. Probably use NV Guardian. That's a big go-to for me. It's just really simple to use. This leather cleaner is a prep product for like ceramics. So if you wanted to apply like Gyeon Leather Shield, for example, this is a great product to prep with it beforehand. It's doesn't contain any conditioners or anything that's going to interfere with the coating bonding. But for me, NV Guardian is just it's a great balance of like performance and low risk. Anytime you apply a leather coating, like a true coating like Leather Shield, even though that product is incredibly user-friendly as far as interior coatings go, there is a risk, if you leave high spots. I know you can take Leather Cleaner Strong and get them off, but that just kind of stresses me out a little bit. So unless the customer is, paying for and demanding a leather coating, then Guardian's going to be my go-to because it's kind of like H2GO. It's not going to give you the durability of Leather Shield or necessarily the performance of Leather Shield, but you can't mess it up. If you leave high spots on, even weeks later, you can get them off. Like a very gentle leather cleaner will get them off, so it's not stressful. And it does help a lot with like gene transfer and making the leather easier to clean. So pretty much the same thing with that. I'll probably use one of these bubble towels if I don't go through all 3 of them to wipe the product off. To apply it, you could use applicator like this. Even like the little KLIN finger applicators work well with that for like getting around the steering wheel and intricate areas like that. Glass, we've been loving the Koch glass cleaner. This stuff's really strong. It's actually gotten some stuff off glass that like none of the other glass cleaners that we sell were able to get off. So really effective glass cleaner. KLIN Glass Shine HD. This or the standard Glass Shine, 90% of the time what I'm going to grab for cleaning glass. Zero finishes do work extremely well, but because I use them for PPF, because we use them for sealant application, panel wiping, stuff like that, I tend to use these. I'm big on like coordination, as you can probably see. So I don't like even though I could use the zero finish for anything, I think there is value in having like categorized towels for different steps. That way you're not, for example, if you use sealants a lot on your zero finish, you're cleaning your glass, it's streaking, even though you've washed the towels, maybe all the sealant didn't get out, and then it's kind of causing headaches. So by only using these for glass, I find that I get great performance out of them. Don't use them for anything else. Same with like these interior towels, the dual sides, everything else. So once I'm done cleaning the glass, last step is tires. I'm going to be using STEK tar and adhesive to prep the tire. So obviously we prep the tires outside using Siege from CarScope and a stiff brush, the Gyeon brush. So they were pretty hydrophobic when I washed them, so there's clearly something on there. After cleaning it, it did knock it down by about 80%, I would say, but there's still some residue on there. So tar is going to help get off any of the old dressing, and also just get the tire, the compound, as clean as possible so that when I apply CarScope ink, it will bond correctly. If you don't get 100% of the old dressing off, especially if you're like mixing dressings, this isn't always the case, but I've at least experienced when you're mixing brands, by not getting all of the old dressing off, sometimes it can make it a little splotchy. So when you go to level it off, it's like it's taking off the new dressing entirely where it's on top of the old dressing. So it kind of looks patchy and like there's like areas that look bald. So try to get the tire 100% prepped before you apply any dressing. The only exception I would say is like if you've already put on, like let's say I've already put on my ink 1 or 2 washes ago and I'm just kind of putting another application on top of that, just wash the car. If you don't need to scrub the tires, you don't have to. They're not dirty enough. And then take something like a CarScope wheel and tire towel, dry the tire off, use a blow dryer, and put on your new application. So you're not having to like strip it off with tar or like Siege and tar every single time. You're just kind of keeping the process going. This is the CarScope wheel and tire towel. It is a twisted loop on one side, so it's great for like drying your wheels or even drying your tires. Definitely recommend having the tires dry before you apply. Like in the example I just used, if you're like in maintenance and your tires didn't need scrubbing, you wash your car and you're going to put just like a light layer on to keep it topped up, dry the tire off first, because if it's wet, it's not going to apply very well. Gyeon does make a tire dressing, Tyre Express, that can be applied wet, but that's kind of the exception to the rule. Most of these you're going to want the tires to be dry. So other than this being twisted loop on one side, it's, a lot of people might say, well, how's it a wheel and tire towel? It's just a small towel basically. But again, for me, it goes back to like coordination. So I brought a new one out just to show you guys. I didn't want to put the one that we have used over there on this table and get it dirty. But for me, what I have found this towel to be most useful for me for is I don't typically dry the wheel with a towel unless I absolutely have to, like if it's just dripping water like crazy even after blow drying it. But I typically will blow dry the wheel until there's no more water dripping. And then I've used this just to level off the tire shine, which in Henry's description of the product, he basically says, you can use it to dry the wheels or you can use it to level off your tire shine. So for me, it goes back to coordination. Before we were using like coating removal towels to do that. But I kind of like how over there in our wash station, I have one of these and its only use, its dedicated use is after we dress tires to level them off. That's a big step a lot of people skip. They just apply it and walk away, which that can cause sling. And it can also kind of cause that patchy, weird look to it. So you want to apply it, let it sit for a few minutes, and then go back and just gently level it off. Obviously, if you level it off with elbow grease, you're going to remove more of the dressing. It's probably going to give like a satin look, which some people want. But for me, I just try to basically go over it gently so that I'm getting any excess, so that it's a nice even look and it's not going to sling on the car. So that is the process we're going to be using to get this thing wrapped up. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Please like, subscribe, give us a follow. If you have any suggestions for videos in the future, like I said, please feel free to shoot me a message, send us an email, leave a comment, and we'll make sure to cover that. See you guys next time.